A young man named Samuel dreams of becoming a great wood sculptor. Every time he sees the works of renowned craftsmen, he is fascinated. But despite all his efforts, his creations remain imperfect. Day after day, he tries. Week after week, he tries again. But nothing seems to change. As he keeps comparing his results to those of others, he begins to believe that he is simply not made for this. One evening, feeling discouraged, he visits his grandfather. He tells him everything, his failures, his doubts, his frustration. The old man listens until the end without interrupting him. He looks at his grandson for a few moments. Then a small smile appears on his face. "Sit down, my boy. I'm going to tell you the story of a man who everyone believed was destined to fail. People said he had no talent. They laughed at his mistakes. They mocked his attempts. Yet, thanks to something most people underestimate, he eventually achieved what no one thought was possible. That thing was not luck, and it was not an extraordinary gift. It was perseverance. It was repetition, day after day, again and again. Listen carefully to this story, because when you hear it until the end, you will never look at failure the same way again. But before we begin this story, if you're new here, welcome to Doven Inspire. As the name suggests, this is a place where I don't just tell stories. I inspire. I motivate. I remind you of what you are capable of. So if you're not subscribed yet, take a second to do it now. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell, so you never miss the next video that might just change the way you think or the way you live. Now, let's begin. Many years ago, he began, there was a young man named Gabriel who lived in a small town known for its master clockmakers. Ever since he was a child, he dreamed of building beautiful mechanical clocks that people would admire for generations. Gabriel spent hours watching experienced craftsmen at work. Their hands moved with incredible precision. Every gear fit perfectly. Every clock seemed alive. He wanted to achieve the same level of mastery. But there was one problem. No matter how hard he tried, his clocks never worked the way they should. The gears jammed. The hands stopped moving. Some clocks broke before they were even finished. While other apprentices improved quickly, Gabriel seemed stuck. With each failure, the gap between his dream and his reality felt larger. Gabriel could have given up many times. Every failure felt like proof that he was not made for this work. Sometimes he would stand in front of his unfinished clocks and wonder if he was wasting his time. He looked at other apprentices who seemed to have a natural gift. They could create beautiful mechanisms in a few attempts, while he spent weeks fixing the same problems. One day, after another broken clock, Gabriel decided to leave his workshop. He was tired of trying without seeing real progress. But before leaving, he looked at all the pieces scattered around his table. Every damaged gear, every mistake, and every failed creation represented something he had learned. That night, he remembered something his father had told him when he was younger. Success is not always found in the person who starts with the most ability. Sometimes it is found in the person who refuses to stop. The next morning, Gabriel returned to his workshop. But this time, he stopped comparing himself to others. He stopped searching for a sign that he was talented. Instead, he focused on one simple goal: becoming better than he was yesterday. From that day forward, he created a new routine. Every morning, before anyone else arrived, Gabriel practiced the same techniques again and again. He studied the smallest details of each mechanism. He learned how different materials reacted. He carefully observed his mistakes instead of being ashamed of them. When a clock failed, he did not see it as a defeat anymore. He saw it as another lesson. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. Months became years. While many people were looking for shortcuts, Gabriel was building his skills one repetition at a time. Some days were still difficult. Some creations still failed. There were moments when doubt returned. But something had changed inside him. He no longer believed that talented people succeeded because everything came easily to them. He understood that behind every great achievement, there were countless attempts that nobody saw. After years of practice, people began to notice a difference. The same hands that once created broken clocks were now creating precise and beautiful masterpieces. Visitors started coming to his workshop from different places. They wanted to see the work of the young man who had once been considered hopeless. Many people called him gifted. They believed he had a special talent that others did not have. But Gabriel knew the truth. They were only seeing the final result. They were not seeing the early mornings, the failures, the corrections, and the thousands of repetitions that built his ability. Then one day, a young apprentice asked him, "Master Gabriel, what is the secret behind your success? Were you born with this talent?" Gabriel smiled and looked at the clock he had just finished. "No," he replied. "I was not born with something special. I simply repeated what others were not willing to repeat." The young apprentice stayed silent, thinking about Gabriel's answer. For years, he had believed that successful people were simply different from everyone else. He thought they were born with abilities that ordinary people could never develop. But Gabriel's story revealed another truth. Greatness is rarely created in a single moment. It is built through thousands of small actions repeated over time. A person may have talent at the beginning, but talent alone cannot guarantee success. Without practice, it slowly disappears. Without effort, it remains only potential. Gabriel had discovered something that changed his entire life. The difference between him and those who gave up was not that he had more talent. The difference was that he continued when things became difficult. He repeated the basics when others became bored. He practiced when others were searching for easier paths. He improved when others were waiting for perfect conditions. That was the moment he understood the real power of repetition. Repetition does not only improve skills, it changes the person who practices it. Every attempt builds patience. Every mistake builds experience. Every correction brings someone closer to mastery. And little by little, what once seemed impossible becomes normal. Gabriel's journey was not the story of a naturally gifted person. It was the story of someone who decided to continue long enough for his efforts to become extraordinary. Years passed, and Gabriel's life completely changed. The small workshop where he once struggled became a place known for excellence. People traveled from far away to see his clocks and understand how he created such detailed and precise mechanisms. But the most important change was not the success around him. It was the person he had become. The young man who once doubted himself had developed patience, discipline, and confidence. He no longer feared mistakes because he understood that every mistake was part of the process. One day, he met some of the apprentices who had been considered more talented than him in the past. Some of them had stopped practicing when progress became difficult. They were surprised to see what Gabriel had achieved. They remembered the young man who could barely complete a working clock. Now, they were looking at a master. Many people believed he had finally discovered his talent. But Gabriel knew that talent was never the reason he succeeded. The real reason was simple. He stayed when others left. He practiced when others stopped. He repeated what others refused to repeat. The old man finished his story and looked at Samuel. For a few seconds, there was complete silence. Samuel was no longer thinking about his failures. He was thinking about everything he had misunderstood. He had always compared his first attempts to the final results of other people. He saw their success, but he never saw the years of practice behind it. He finally understood that he was not losing because he lacked talent. He was losing because he expected progress to happen too quickly. The next morning, Samuel returned to his workshop. But this time, his goal was different. He was not trying to become the best immediately. He was simply trying to improve a little every single day. He picked up his tools and started again. The first creations were still imperfect, but he continued, day after day, attempt after attempt. Slowly, his hands became more precise. His ideas became clearer. His confidence grew. Months later, people began noticing the difference in his work. The same person who once wanted to give up was now creating pieces that inspired others. Samuel finally discovered the lesson his grandfather wanted to teach him. The secret was never about being the most talented person in the room. It was about being the person who was willing to keep going when everyone else stopped. The story of Gabriel and Samuel teaches us one of the most important lessons about success. Many people admire the final result, but they rarely see the journey behind it. They see the athlete winning the competition, but they do not see the thousands of hours of training. They see the artist creating a masterpiece, but they do not see the countless attempts that came before. They see the successful person today, but they do not see all the moments when that person wanted to quit. Talent can give someone a good beginning. It can make the first steps easier. But talent alone is not enough. The person who keeps practicing, learning, and improving will eventually pass the person who depends only on natural ability. Because repetition does something powerful. It transforms weakness into strength. It turns mistakes into experience. It turns ordinary actions into extraordinary skills. So if you are working toward a dream and you feel like you are not progressing fast enough, remember this. Do not judge your first steps against someone else's final results. Keep showing up. Keep learning. Keep repeating. One day, people may call it talent, but you will know the truth. It was dedication, patience, and thousands of repetitions that created the person you became. The video ends here. Thank you for watching until the end. If this story taught you something, or if you have a personal thought to share, feel free to let us know in the comments. And if you enjoy these kinds of inspiring stories, don't forget to subscribe to Doven Inspire and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our next videos. I'll see you very soon for another inspiring story.